Hi guys, my name's Lee Hayes. Thank you for joining my podcast. I'm better known as DJ-Scorps on all platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and YouTube. I'm glad that you're here to listen to this. I'm supporting the victims of domestic abuse throughout 2026. My inboxes are always open for anybody that wants to contact me that's going through anything whatsoever, that feels that they've got no one to speak to. This podcast is going to be called Why Male Abuse is Still Ignored, the Invisible Victims. Before I begin, I want to say this episode discusses domestic abuse, sexual abuse and trauma. Listeners' discretion is advised. This podcast exists because there's a silence that rarely gets challenged. When we talk about abuse, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, or even coercive control, the conversation usually follows a familiar path. We picture the women as victims and we picture the men as perpetrators. And for many people, that picture feels complete. But it isn't. This series isn't about denying women's suffering. Women have suffered and continue to suffer abuse at horrific levels. That truth doesn't disappear just because we widen the conversation. This series exists because abuse is not a gendered experience. It's a human one. The gendered experience is much deeper. And when we only tell one version of the story, people fall through the cracks. Men fall through the cracks. When people hear the phrase male victim, there's often discomfort, sometimes disbelief, sometimes jokes, and sometimes silence. That reaction alone tells us something is wrong. Because if abuse were truly understood as unacceptable in all forms, the gender of the victim wouldn't determine how seriously the story is being taken. One of the biggest reasons male abuse remains invisible is narrative convenience. Media outlets, campaigns, and even public policy often rely on simple stories with clear heroes and villains. Stories that don't require norms. The problem is, real life doesn't work like that. Men can be victims, women can be perpetrators. And the power doesn't always look the way we expect it to. But those truths challenge long-held assumptions, so they're often pushed aside. When men report abuse, especially domestic abuse or sexual abuse, they're often met with questions women are less likely to face. Like, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you stop? Are you sure it wasn't mutual? Are you exaggerating? These questions don't come from cruelty most of the time. They come from disbelief. Society struggles to reconcile male vulnerability with traditional ideas of masculinity. From a young age, boys are taught that strength means silence, that vulnerability is weakness, that being a man means being in control. So when a man says he was controlled, hurt, violated, or frightened, it clashes with everything he's been taught he's supposed to be. That clash creates shame. Shame keeps people quiet. Another reason male abuse is overlooked is how domestic abuse itself is defined and discussed. Abuse, often imagined as physical violence, visible injuries, bruises, and police sirens. And while physical abuse absolutely happens to men, much of the abused men experience is psychological, emotional, financial, or coercive. Men report being isolated from friends and family, monitored on their phones, threatened with false allegations, financially controlled, and emotionally degraded. But when men describe these experiences, they're often told it's just relationship conflict, or that they should handle it themselves. The same behaviours when experienced by a woman are far more likely to be recognised as abuse. That double standard doesn't protect women, it just leaves men unprotected. There is also an issue of reporting. Statistics often show fewer men reporting abuse, and that fact is sometimes used to suggest men are less affected. But reporting rates don't equal prevalence. Men are significantly less likely to report abuse because they fear not being believed, being ridiculed, being arrested themselves, losing access to the children, and damaging their reputation. For many men, silence feels safer than risk of speaking. And when men do report, their experiences are often minimised by the police, by the services, and sometimes even by the friends and family. That response teaches other men watching quietly in the background that speaking up isn't worth it. This is where the media plays a powerful role. Headlines shape public understanding. Reputation creates belief. When abuse is constantly framed as something men do rather than something men can experience, male victims internalize that message. They don't see themselves in campaigns, they don't hear their stories told, and they don't feel included. And if you can't see yourself in a conversation, you're less likely to believe help exists for you. Another uncomfortable topic is coercive control. Coercive control is real, it's serious, and it causes profound harm. It is also complex. Boundaries, control, concern, and power can blur, especially that when viewed through bias. There are men who describe being accused of coercive control for setting boundaries, questioning spending, substance use, or unsafe behaviour. While similar controlling behaviours directed at men are dismissed, the issue isn't the law itself. The issue is inconsistency. The assumptions about who holds power by default. When we assume men always have power, we stop looking for male victims. When we stop looking, we stop protecting. These series exist because silence has consequences. Men experience higher rates of suicide. Men are less likely to access mental health support. Men are more likely to cope through isolation, addiction, or self-destruction. That doesn't happen in vacuum. It happens in culture that teaches men to endure rather than express. Talking about male abuse doesn't weaken the fight against abuse, it strengthens it. Because abuse thrives in silence, and silence doesn't discriminate. If we genuinely care about enduring abuse, we have to care about all victims, even when their stories make us uncomfortable. This podcast isn't here to compete with anyone's pain. It is here to say that pain doesn't belong to one gender. And in the episodes that follow, I am going to talk about what silence costs men, what happens when they speak, and how healing begins, not by denying reality, but by facing it honestly. Because no one should suffer in silence simply because they don't fit the narrative. And no one should feel invisible in their own pain. Thank you for listening to podcast 1. Please follow for podcast 2.